This is my costume. I'm a young wavy gravy. Wavy gravy. That's my costume. Wavy gravy. I don't know. Let's go with that. Who cares? Who the fuck cares? Frankenstein. The 1931 version of Frankenstein. 1931 was a good year for movies. 1931, 33. King Kong was 33. Dracula, 1931 too. Woo! This looks really good and it sounds really good. It's spooky. These movies are great. Frankenstein, Dracula, the originals. So like they'll be doing things in that movie that no one has ever seen before, which is really interesting. Like Bela Lugosi dressed in his, the Count uniform, with the medals and whatever the fuck, European. I don't even know if it was authentic or not, but that was not done before. It was not Nosferatu, which was just a weird looking fucking elf looking dude or something. But this was the first time. So they also had special effects. Some of the special effects were really bad because it was bats on strings, going like, burr, burr, burr. And, of course, back then, like, oh, look at those special effects. Cool. Now we're like, that's funny. Then in Dracula 2, there's some funny scenes involving animals. I guess they wanted to, down in his crypt, before they took the ship to wherever the fuck, they were in the crypt and there was animals crawling around. They wanted to make it look like animals were crawling around, and they had possums. I guess possums were the stand-in for really big rats, apparently. I don't know. People didn't know that much about animals in 1931. I don't know, because then the next animal you see is an aardvark or an anteater or some shit like that. No, an aardvark? Armadillo. I always get those two confused. An armadillo. So all of a sudden you're watching Dracula and then there's a fucking armadillo. It's like, because it's a weird exotic animal at 1931 times. They were like, only the people who lived in Texas saw those, and fuck them anyway, so what are you gonna do? But this movie, Phantasm, is one of my all-time favorites, 1979. Disengage from all non-essential humans. I got, did I tell you about Frankenstein? Yeah, Frankenstein's monster. It's not Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster. Who gives a fuck?
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. It's Dracula. Is it vampire? Is it Dracula? Or is it Count Dracula? Or is it whatever it is, Van Helsing? The first couple times people were seeing things that they had never seen before related to Dracula, and therefore those things kind of like got passed down and passed down and passed down for years and years, and then became the norm for what Dracula was. For instance, the Count from Sesame Street, which, I was a big fan of because he counted shit, and I was like, hey, cool. And, but he was a vampire, so he's like, in my free time, I count shit, I'm usually at night, I'm like out and about. So when does he have time to fucking count shit?
The delusion of a disordered mind. A phantom.
That's very strange, because we had that TV. See that TV?
A ghost.
That's a 1976 Panasonic TV. We had the same TV. Very strange. This movie came out in 1979, but let's go back to the Count for a second here. I'm sorry. The Count is a vampire, right? He counts, but he counts numbers, right? So, like, when does he have time to count numbers? I mean, he should be, like, sustaining his life by drinking blood, right? Is that what it is for? Or is it just to pass on the Dracula thing to other people? When Dracula drinks blood, is it because he needs nourishment? Okay, so, like, all right, fine. When does he have time to count? I mean, Jesus Christ. Does he do it in the daytime? He can't count in the daytime because he's got to be out at night. He can't be in the daytime if he's a Dracula, but I've seen him in the daytime. That's the other thing. Is the Count really a Dracula? Is it a vampire? Is the Count really a vampire? I don't know, because I've seen him during the day, clearly, with Big Bird and fucking Oscar, and it's daylight out, and there's David, I don't know if you remember David. David died, but David was cool, but nobody wants to talk about David. What did David do? I don't know. They don't talk about Sesame Street. They don't talk about him on Sesame Street. David was, he died of diabetes. He had diabetes. He died of diabetes. Not that that's funny, because I'll probably die of diabetes. Die of diabetes. But, and I have had people that I know who have died from diabetes, so it's not really funny, but I'm saying David died from diabetes. And that was on Sesame Street. We don't talk about David's death on Sesame Street. I don't know why. You got Mr. Hooper. You got the original Gordon you talk about. You got Maria. She just died, I think. Rita Moreno. She's still alive. I don't know. Is she on Electric Company? The Electric Company. Rita Moreno. It's Morgan. What's his name? Morgan Freeman. Yeah, from the Morgan Freeman was also in the movie. What's the movie with the Shawshank Redemption, right? And at the end of that movie, he picks up a bag in a stone wall in Buxton, which is actually right there, like the real Buxton, you know. And it looks a little different than it did in the movie because it wasn't really in Buxton when the movie, you know, it wasn't filmed in Buxton. But it, Morgan Freeman was in there, and it was a Stephen King story. Stephen King lived in Bangor. I was just in Bangor today. Bangor is kind of like, I don't know. Bangor is a little, Bangor is Bangor, Maine. It's Bangor. You know, what are you going to do? At least it's not like, you know, fancy. You know, I don't feel like awkward when I go to Bangor. I'm not like, ooh, I'm in Connecticut or something. So it's got that going for it. It's like accessible. It's like Lewiston, you know. Lewiston, I mean, there's some sad things in Lewiston, you know, and Lewiston's strong. But Lewiston is strong, yes. But it's still, well, Lewiston, you know. So, by the way, Frankenstein's monster is so good. And this is another thing about this makeup, the Boris Karloff makeup. You know, like this was the first time people saw this Frankenstein thing. The first time I watched as he came out onto the scene and he had the big clunky shoes and he had the dinner jacket. It's kind of a funny thing. Like, think about it. He just had like a blazer. Like, Frankenstein, I gotta put a blazer on. You know, I just put a blazer on and I'm Frankenstein. You know, a black t-shirt and a blazer. That's so way ahead of its time. 1931. That's like very like, I don't know, like hippie dad, you know, going out to a restaurant, you know, like, or a, you know, fancy, you know, dad. He's got a blazer on and he's got a black t-shirt. You know, he's cool. He's got a ponytail and shit. And he's like, whatever. But that was Frankenstein, you know. That was the first time we saw that image of Frankenstein with the jacket and the big shoes. I don't know what kind of pants he was wearing. What kind of pants do Frankenstein wears? He doesn't wear pants. Well, he does. He wears Frankenstein pants. Not sure what kind of pants Frankenstein wears. But the shoes and the jacket just complete the look, you know. So Frankenstein was really doing well